all clowns and we live in this circus.
That's a good introduction. Hello, viewers. Welcome to Trope Troupe. I'm Alina.
I'm Cole.
I'm also here, and my name is Peter.
This is our first episode. Woo!
None of us know exactly what we're doing.
That's okay. That's okay. We'll figure it out.
We'll manage.
One episode at a time. So, I may be sitting in the middle of the table here, but I am not hosting this episode. Because the topic that we chose is one I know little to nothing about. So, Cole, why don't you introduce everybody to the topic we're going to be talking about today?
Hello, everybody. Welcome to a clown world we all live in, where nothing makes any sense. Today's topic is about the TV show Adventure Time, and also philosophy of absurdism. Can you put these two things in a soda can and shake it all around? Yes.
I'm assuming.
Well, your assumption is probably correct.
Awesome. I did it. I contributed to this conversation.
Adventure Time as a show is really well known for being absolutely crazy all of the time. I find difficulty explaining anything about it, because if you've seen it, you know, and if you haven't, I'm going to sound insane.
Well, I mean, you're probably going to sound insane to the people who have seen it anyway.
You're right.
I haven't.
It just has that effect on a lot of people.
That's right, Internet. I haven't watched Adventure Time. Not a single second of it.
At its core, Adventure Time is just a show about a boy and his dog who are also brothers. And they go on adventures and do ridiculous things with each other. Yes! Believe it or not, they go on adventures many times. You would never guess from the title.
Yeah, the title is actually a subtle nod to the events of the show.
Really? I didn't know that.
And now you do.
You do.
And now you're far more well versed in the topic at hand.
Ah, yes. No, now I know everything. I know everything I need to know. Dog. Boy.
Well-known things include too much about the show, such as the fact that the dog has stretchy powers, and nothing is really ever explained at all until like 4 seasons in of a 10-season-long show.
Well, no wonder I never watched it.
Yeah,
we'll tell you what's going on in 4 seasons.
Yeah, the majority of the show, before anything is explained at all, is just episodic weird shit that happens like all the time.
All the time.
I mean, the first episode is what, the Candy Kingdom turning to zombies?
Yeah, so okay, so yeah, that's actually starting at the place where it starts is probably a good idea. Yeah, it's because a pretty good case for just to explain the sheer amount of random bullshit that happens here is that in the first episode, when all of the characters are being established still, a scientist / royalty, Princess Bubblegum, tries to create a revivify potion, essentially, for various members of her kingdom, but kind of bonks it a little, and the end result is turning them into zombies instead, and so accidentally is a zombie plague, and the entirety of the first episode, and every episode, I think, except for the last one, is 10 minutes, mind you. So they all have to happen very quick. Is just your standard run-of-the-mill plague in a kingdom made entirely of candy. And instead of wanting brains, they desire sugar instead. So that's kind of where we begin.
I would say that's already better.
That really does set the tone for the rest of the show. to be honest.
He really does. It's a good tone setter. Um, Lots and lots of times, especially in the earlier seasons, you have episodes that just kind of end with a complete non sequitur joke. One of uh, one of the ones that I particularly like is I think it is in a season 2 episode where where Finn, the human boy, and Marceline, the vampire queen, who he's made a tenuous friendship with, just run around and I think just do like prank stuff most of the day. They do just all kinds of things. At the end of the episode, Marceline asks him where Jake is. Or she asks him what's in his shirt pocket because she hasn't seen anything in his shirt pocket before. And she's like, "Oh, Jake is in here." Because Jake's the stretchy dog. He can change shape into whatever he wants. He just pulls open the pocket, and Jake rotates around and farts at the camera, and the episode ends. That's how a variety of them go. Uh, and it's intended to be, of course, comedic and get laughs out of just the sheer randomness of it, which actually I think does work a decent amount of time. I don't tend to like things that are very, very random. The kind of absurdity of these things tends to really grate on me after a certain point in time.
I think it grated on me immediately.
That's fair.
Yeah, like I remember when the show was originally airing, like they'd have the ads on Cartoon Network to try to promote it, right? And like I feel like the absurdity did not mix well with the ad, like trying to like pull people in, because a lot of the ads was just like a bunch of random phrases and screams and stuff, and then it'd be like, go watch the show, and I'm like, but why? What does any of that mean?
Yeah, it is sort of difficult to try and filter the actual show itself into like a 30-second ad spot.
Especially the earlier parts of the show.
The earlier parts of the show do have a lot of screaming and intermittent things. Uh, I still think a lot of it ends up working out because it takes up less time than it seems to, and a lot of them develop into running gags later on. That's I think part of actually what makes Adventure Time in kind of something of an absurdist work in and of itself, is the fact that uh, in the process of writing it, when they wanted to make new episodes, the team of Adventure Time, particularly the writers, when they were writing episodes, would go back and they would look at earlier episodes and see what certain things that they had done in earlier episodes they hadn't actually expanded on at all. And a lot of this ended up being things that were either the history of the world itself or were just random non sequitur jokes that later get expanded into actual characters. One of the ones that I really liked was there are two that I particularly like, and that is that uh, in a season 1 episode when they first meet Marceline, she kicks them out of their house that they live in because she actually owns the house. Being a vampire, Marceline is like 1,000 years old. Actually, being Marceline is both a vampire and also half demon, and therefore was already gonna live for a really long time. And now being a vampire, she's immortal. So she's been
Very
around
long
for a
time
thousand
wasn't long
years.
enough, it seems.
Yeah, and so she owns a bunch of places, and the entire episode, Finn and Jake are going around and trying to find new places to live. And she happens to own a bunch of them over and over again. They just get
All of them,
evicted
actually.
constantly. Yeah. Eventually, they essentially trade homes. She gives them their treehouse back, and she decides to build a little house in a cave.
How is that a trade? Wait.
Well, well, she can't go outside in the day. She's a vampire,
Okay.
so the cave is actually useful to her.
Did wait. So they
She's been
did it.
roaming around for a while.
I know it's just like, okay. So they did a trade, right?
Yeah, essentially.
So
Yeah, they ended up
she.
living in the cave for a bit, and then she owned the cave,
Oh.
and then she kicked them out of the cave back into the treehouse.
Oh. That sounds like less of a trade and more of a compromise.
Yeah, I guess.
Potato, potato.
The point is, throughout the entire episode, whenever they're trying to sleep in various places, you have these little, like, caterpillar worms that creep up onto their bed, and when they get noticed, they, like, stand straight up, and their heads vibrate, and they go wah 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 wah, and there's, like, little particles around their heads as stuff is happening. And every time you think, like, maybe something weird is about to happen, but nothing weird does happen. They just get shook off the bed, shook off the covers. Uh, until the very end of the episode when they're back in the treehouse and suddenly a giant king worm crashes in through the wall and they get hypnotized immediately and start rubbing the worm. And then the episode ends.
Did they resolve that
believe-
in the next one, or is that
No.
just
Yeah,
A
most of the
very,
episodes
very
don't end on
episodic show
cliffhangers,
until
they
like
just
season
end
4.
on. Yeah, they don't end on cliffhangers. They end on just random shit.
Yeah.
Like,
They don't end on cliffhangers until halfway through the show, and then they do end on cliffhangers.
okay.
So I believe it is then in a season 4 episode where the king worm returns, and the entire episode is Finn and Jake in a dream trying to kill the king worm so they can get out of hypnosis, which he's just there again. They start the episode in hypnosis.
Oh.
so theoretically, every episode between their first hypnosis and the dream is actually still part of the dream.
No,
Yeah,
God.
but that's not how it works. No, that isn't.
I
That clearly
know.
isn't what happens because the episodes in between them are also referenced later in reality. So that's the entire rest of the show.
It's all a dream. It's
And
all a
all
dream.
the sequels.
It's all a
you
dream. It's
say
not
that,
a
Elena,
trope
but
I
that was
thought I'd
actually
hit
a very-
immediately.
You say that, but that was actually a very, I'd say, infamous is probably the best word, fan theory for a long time.
Yeah, well, the it's a dream fan theory that exists is that goes for every show.
Yeah, it was. I say this as if I'm an expert on the topic, when we all know that I'm no expert on anything. But apparently there was an almost cultish sect of the Adventure Time fan base that almost fanatically pushed that fan theory.
No, I do remember this now. Yeah, I remember seeing this on YouTube all the time back in the day.
Man, I was not there or paying attention.
I'm not
None of
surprised.
this was on my radar.
I mean, I was actually only made aware of it recently, after
Hmm.
browsing Twitter for a bit.
Oh God, why would you do that to yourself?
In current day?
Look, if you isolate most of Twitter, you get half decent stuff.
That's
I'll
valid.
believe that.
That's valid.
The second thing that I really like that is shown really early on, there's so many things of it. Like a lot of villains especially tend to recur, or just characters in general recur. And I think what makes it ultimately something of an absurdist work of fiction is the fact that all of it is complete and utter happenstance. It is a
Hmm.
completely random series of sequential events that just happen to lead to this situation. If things were played out a little differently, the world ends at the end of the show, but it doesn't because a series of coincidences happened to line up just right. But maybe it's about time that we explained a little bit about what absurdism is for people who don't know.
Well, absurdism is actually it's an interesting philosophy, because it's a combination of existentialism and nihilism,
Second
however,
one.
potato. It essentially the essential thing is it takes from it essentially it is life is meaningless, but that's okay. that to put it in one sentence, because yeah, it essentially takes the thing of nihilism, which is like life is meaningless, and it puts and it takes away the sort of depressing part of it, right? Because it takes a more existentialist stance in terms of the positivity, where absurdism's just like, yeah, it's meaningless, and you got a problem with that? Live your life.
And in the case of Adventure Time specifically, it's life is meaningless, but look at all the cool shit around you.
That too. Yeah, the specific definition of absurdism is disputed, but generally it's just like life's absurd. Don't get all caught up in it. Just look at how cool everything is.
I'll die, you'll die, we'll all die. Have a snack, it'll make you feel better. And I do really do feel like the thing that makes Adventure Time an absurdist plot is the happenstance in and of itself, is not just the inherent absurdity of everything that happens in the world and the fact that none of it quite makes complete sense, uh, but specifically a lot of the events and the ways that in which they occur, because that's how the people who wrote the show wrote the show. As a long series of vaguely interconnected events until about halfway through, they started actually doing like a full story. Um, and the way in which they started to do that is actually really interesting. Because they start by taking like a huge major deviation from the series, right? So I guess not from the series, but in the way they've done things in the past. Uh, which is actually having episodes connect each other back to back. A two-parter, one may say. And it all connects to stuff that happened way earlier in the series, in the advent of season 2, the end of season 2. Very famous character from Adventure Time is, of course, the Lich. Ultimately, the big bad of the entire show. Uh,
The Lich.
Yes, the Lich. He is revealed way earlier than one would expect, which is at the end of season 2. And at first, he's nothing other than just like another random villain guy to deal with. Um, he is sealed in amber and the top of the candy tree in the Candy Kingdom. Why is he there? Billy put him there. Who's Billy? He's a hero guy that Finn really looks up to.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I would have been lost otherwise. I'm still lost.
We can unravel this thread as far as we want, basically.
There are 10 seasons of this show. So, at the end of season 2, the Lich is revealed. He's in the Amber, and he seems to be getting slowly stronger in there from his weakened state initially. And when Princess Bubblegum brings Finn and Jake up there, she gives them these like protective amulets to protect them from the Lich's crazy magic spells. And they go they go in there, and lo and behold, the snail that is in every episode of Adventure Time, there's a little snail guy. He's just like sometimes in the background, sometimes it's in the focus. He's just a snail. It's just like an Easter egg. But the snail is in Finn's clothes and does not have a protective amulet, and drops on the ground and smashes its head against the amber to free the Lich, who immediately flees and starts heading to his well of power in order to get all of his power back.
He left it in a well.
Yeah. Well, the Well of Power is the source of his power, and it's the source of his power for a very specific reason that we may or may not talk about today. It's where he was born, basically, is all you need to know right now.
Okay.
Uh, and in order to go and stop him, Princess Bubblegum gives Finn the Gauntlet of Billy, which he kind of has to bully a little bit into doing what he wants because it's also alive. And then he later talks to it in the episode. Later in the episode, he talks to it a little nicer to get it to do what he wants. Uh, it shoots lasers, and the
Oh.
goal, of course, is to hit the Lich with a laser and fucking kill him. Unfortunately,
That's what they
just
say in the show. They point the laser at him and say, "Quick, fucking kill him."
oh, they don't. Well, they don't say fuck.
What do you mean?
It is, and it's a very fun way of avoiding swears, where they just put random junk words in there instead. One of them being the word math.
What?
Yeah, so you just say "what the math" instead.
Finally, math is offensive.
Finally, math is a cuss.
Yeah, Adventure Time came out before the fuck word.
Yeah.
They get to the Lich, and as I try to explain things, I realize there's always more to explain. God, tell me you at least know who the Ice King is.
Is it the fat blue one with the long nose and the crown?
Yeah,
Actually, it's just the Mumu that makes him look fat, but yes.
The what?
It's a,
type of clothing.
yeah, his clothes just make him look a lot bigger than he is.
Oh, okay.
He's actually
okay,
pretty
but,
emaciated.
oh, okay, but I got the right one.
Yeah, he's the right one, yeah.
Okay.
He's also a little insane, and he routinely throughout the show is very much a one-note villain at first who just routinely kidnaps princesses because he's a bad guy.
Oh yeah, that's what all bad guys do.
Yeah.
Even if there aren't
Yeah,
princesses.
he's Ice Bowser, effectively.
Except there's princesses. He's got multiple going. She's like, I gotta kidnap Stacy on Tuesday.
You
Bonus
actually
on Thursday.
captured a bit of the show's humor there, actually.
Oh, I did it! I win!
You've done it. You've achieved absurdism. And that's the end of the episode.
Yep.
The Ice King interferes and he tries to kidnap Princess Bubblegum while she's also trying to get Finn and Jake to the Well of Power so they can punch the Lich in his gonads. And he kind of accidentally interferes with the entire thing. And they still end up beating the Lich through a different way, but also Princess Bubblegum gets dropped in the Lich's Well of Power.
Ow.
And possessed by his ghost of a ghost. And so the next episode, the episode immediately afterwards, is dealing with the repercussions of that. So that's like the first time they do an actual like two-parter episode. And Lich tries to essentially turn PB's body into like a body he can actually use. Because she's made of gum and he was made of bones, and I don't know if you know this, but gum don't have bones.
He just slurps onto the floor.
Well, I'm pretty sure Princess Bubblegum does have bones. They're just made of candy, and I don't think the Lich wants bones made of candy.
Maybe they're made out of like sugar cane.
Probably.
That would make sense.
Regardless, they're not full of calcium.
Lich is a big milk
sweet
drinker.
calcium.
The only requisite for the Lich's body is that it must have calcium.
And it takes, and so at the end of the episode, we get Princess Bubblegum back to her normal self, expel the Lich from her body, but it's revealed that the Lich, part of him, is still in the snail, and this is not followed up on for an entire another season, basically. That's where season 2 ends. Season 3, like halfway through season 3, we get an update on that plot as the Lich has taken a book from Finn. It is a book called The Enchiridion. It has a bunch of stuff in it. It basically has all the information in the universe inside of it, and is a little sentient, so it knows what you want to see within its pages. And so when the Lich does this big contrived plot to get involving a bear, to get Finn to give him the Enchiridion, uh, it knows to show the Lich the kind of spell that he wants, which is a spell to reclaim most of his power, and also kill Billy and wear his skin, which is what happens at the end of season, which we see happen. Yeah,
Skip.
that's what
Hold
happens at the end of. Believe that's what happens at the end of season 3, if I remember correctly. Although it
Kids
might
shows
be at
these
the end of
days.
season 4.
Regardless, there's a bit of
Remember
a skip
exactly.
full of a
Yeah.
bunch of episodic nonsense.
There's a big skip filled with a bunch of episodic nonsense.
A bunch of random haha jokes, and then give me your skin, Billy.
Yeah. It's a real shame we only get to see Billy like once before then.
Yeah, real shame that we only saw him once. True tragedy. Never seen Billy.
Yeah, all the stuff with the Lich that I was describing does happen at the end of season 2, and then I'm looking at an episode list right now to remind myself.
You need notes?
You're
And-
cheating.
He says, holding notes.
So it's actually at the end of season 4 where the Lich takes Billy's skin. So this is where season 4 is where we really do start to enter the more serialized part of the show.
The serial
a whole
zone.
bunch of a whole bunch of plot threads are actually happening now, and they're not all followed up on like sequentially. There's still like episodic stuff happening in between the moments where stuff happens. But you see references to them pretty consistently. You see like in episode the end of season 3, Finn is Finn has a crush on Princess Bubblegum for the show up until this point, and he's really struggling to get through the fact that like she does not reciprocate at all. And so at the end of season 3, Jake is trying to set him up with someone because Jake is a good brother, but also very misguided.
Yeah.
That one didn't work out. Here, immediately date someone else.
He tries to set him up with Flame Princess, and that doesn't go over so well at first, and then in that episode, and then immediately the start of season 4 continues that plot line where they kind of end on more equal footing, at least agreeing to be friends for now, if nothing else. And it kind of throughout season 4 does develop into a relationship of sorts.
Whoa.
Yeah.
And then he
However-
sucked his.
We might want to cut that.
I was just skipping ahead.
They break up in season 5.
I wasn't skipping very far ahead.
The point is that at the end of season 4, the Lich takes Billy's skin and uses the Enchiridion to go to a place called the Wish Room, where a guy called Prismo the Wishmaster lives. And you get there, you get a wish. The Lich wants everyone to die. He wants to wish for the extermination of all life. We get to the wishing room. Finn and Jake get there right after the Lich does. After it's been revealed that he's wearing Billy's skin, so in the entire episode he's deceiving them into getting all the stuff to have the Enchiridion open the portal to the Wish Room. Or sorry, it's not the Wish Room, it's the Time Room. It's the Time Room, before anyone in the comments gets on my ass.
They're already there. They paused it before you corrected yourself. They're already down there. They're already like, you fool!
And then they close the video so they'll never be enlightened.
I have a question.
Yeah. What?
Does regular show count as an absurdist?
Absolutely.
Okay, I didn't watch that one either.
That's very helpful, I
Just-
guess.
it
So
put
if
a
we do
question on
something
my
about
mind.
regular show, it'll be the same as this one.
Yes, yes, it will.
Yes, but even less productive because I also didn't watch it.
You either watch one of them or none of them.
I guess. I watched both.
Heathen.
So at the end of season 4, Village wishes for the extinction of all life. They see him do it. They can't stop him because they get there right as he does it, and then he vanishes. Uh, and they talk to the guy in the time room, Prismo, who explains, like, yeah, he made the wish. He's been sent to the his wish has been fulfilled. Like, I just grant wishes, dude. I don't know what to tell you. Uh, and Finn immediately almost wishes the Lich never existed in the first place.
Oh.
And then we hard cut to a complete other reality, where we see some version of Finn, who it's worth noting actually has a nose drawn in, uh, and to artistically differentiate his face from the face of other Finn.
How do we differentiate these two? Nose.
But everyone in this world, the humans have noses that are drawn, because the humans in Adventure Time also have noses. They're just not actively drawn in.
Yeah.
Uh, in uh, in this world, the humans have noses that are actively drawn in, and also like visible eye sclera. Right, the whites of their eyes are visible because
Oh,
in the rest
yeah.
of the show, everyone has dot eyes
Yeah.
except for Lemon Grab, but he's
He's weird.
not well.
Does he grab lemons?
He is a lemon.
Oh.
He's fucked up, is what he is.
Oh, is he the one that's like unacceptable or something like that?
Yeah.
Oh, I remember watching ads for that. I hated those. He's
Yeah,
kept
he is the
screaming.
screamiest part of Adventure Time.
Yeah,
Really?
I
Well,
hated him.
he was voiced by Justin Roiland, whose entire thing is screaming. So
I know who that is.
I'd be shocked if you didn't.
I don't. That was a sarcastic
this is not an
remark.
episode about Justin Roiland.
Yeah, we'll talk about him when we talk about defamed celebrities.
we talking. Yeah, so we end up there. We see a version of Finn that is there. He's playing his flute on a log. He very notably, his right arm is gone and is replaced with a simple robotic prosthesis. Uh,
Oh.
and we then also see a version of Jake in this reality, who's just a normal dog.
Uh.
Fully normal dog, not Finn's brother, not sapient in the way that dogs are in Adventure Time, the rest of Adventure Time. Fully normal dog. We see Finn's parents, human parents, which Finn does not have human parents really in the show. Finn was raised by Jake's parents, who he considers to be his parents.
Son, you were adopted.
Well, he knows.
Yeah. A thing of note is that Finn is the only human left in regular Adventure Time for quite a long time.
Yeah, it is not until really close to the end of the show where we know for sure what happened to the rest of humanity. Finn is the only known human. There's technically a second human, but she's gone a little wonky. Her name is Susan Strong. She is at first reveal maybe not a human, but is instead a fishman because the rest of the people she was living with are fish people who who look mostly human. And Finn mistakes them for humans at first. There's a whole I think season 2 episode about it. I think. And he meets her again later, and he finds out that she is also a human, but she lives with the fish people, so they don't interact very much for a while. But yeah, it is very much important that Finn is like the only human in the entire known world for a long, long time. Um, but this world, he has human parents. They call him in for something important, and then the episode ends. And then the next episode, at the start of the next season, immediately continues where it left off. A whole bunch of crazy fucking shit happens immediately. And this is, I think, where we really get into the kind of all events that happen in Adventure Time are a part of a long, long string of circumstantial bullshit that goes all the way back over 1,000 years from the history of the show. Uh, because we find out that the Lich doesn't exist in this world because the bomb that birthed him, he was born from a bomb.
Uh,
Uh, the
You
bomb
heard
harnessed some
from the
kind of
Great Mushroom War specifically.
yeah, well, it's called the Great Mushroom War because the bomb was like a mega nuke.
oh.
And the nuke was mega because it was also magical. Uh,
mm.
and it's what released magic back into the world, essentially. So the world that Finn currently lives in this altered reality, is very, very mundane. Because the bomb never went off, and the bomb never went off because the guy who becomes Ice King uh, used the magic of the crown. There was still some magic in the world at that point, and one of them was in
Mm.
the crown that the Ice King has. And he used the magic of the crown to freeze the bomb before it hit the ground, and it's been stuck there since forever. Uh,
Can I get an F in the chat from my boy Simon?
F in the chat for Simon Petrikov, who goes insane for almost the entirety of the show as Ice King, and then gets depression in the sequel series.
F in the chat. Yeah.
Simon Petrikov is also a good study of absurdism in this fucking show. So is every character, though. The point being, if the bomb doesn't go off, the Lich is never born, magic never returns to the world, and instead you have like just like a war-torn apocalyptic world instead of a post-apocalyptic magical world. Uh,
Do you want the normal Fallout or the magical one? Yeah.
throughout this entire thing, we also are cutting back to Jake while he's in Prismo's time room still, and they're just kind of hanging out because Jake wants to see how this wish-altered reality shapes out for Finn. Uh, and at the end of the situation, because it's worth noting, our Finn has been sent to a new reality that has been altered by the wish. So our Finn no longer exists in the world. He is now there. Uh, fun!
Woo!
Yay! And I think the thing Prismo essentially coaches Jake into how to make a wish properly without any kind of fuck ups happening. Because that's with a lot of things. Prismo's wishes are all like monkey paw stuff. You get what you want, but not in the way that you want it. Uh,
Mm.
Finn
Not
wanted a
even
world
like
where
Prismo fucking it up. It's just how wishes work.
it's just how wishes work.
Yeah.
He's not the one who decides how it works. He just grants the wish, and then stuff happens.
Yeah.
Like the monkey's paw in Finn's wish is that when he finds the crown, uh, his parents are in trouble with like the gang that runs the place that they live in, and so he's told to go sell the donkey that he likes a lot. He likes this donkey so much; it's a good friend to him. Uh, or it's a mule, I forget. Uh,
The
the
comments are
horse
coming after
trade
you
user.
now.
Unimportant.
It's not important if it's a donkey or a mule, honestly. Its name is Barbar. Uh,
Barbar.
and along the way, he accidentally finds the frozen mushroom bomb and also the corpse of Simon Petrikov, and also the ice crown, which gives him ice powers when he puts it on. He does not know that yet, because right now he just intends to sell the crown to get money instead of selling the donkey to get money. And of course, things get screwed along the way. They get screwed along the way in a much more mundane way, though, because he just gets scammed instead of being scammed and then transformed into a giant foot.
Okay.
And he puts the crown on. He gains the ice powers of the Ice King, and so things clearly aren't going well for him. And without the crown there, to keep the bomb from going off, the bomb slowly melts out of the ice and explodes, and the Lich is reborn in that world again. And also, Finn's life is now basically fucked up because now he's the one wearing the cursed crown. A whole lot of horrific shit is now going down. Um, and so Jake makes the wish that he wishes that the Lich's wish was for Finn and Jake to return home to Ooh safely. And so the time gets rewound for
Oh my
Jake.
god.
We have Finn back there again, and they enter the time room and they see the Lich make the wish. Uh, and the Lich kind of gets glitched out for a moment. He's like, I wish for Finn and Jake to go back to Ooh. And they get sent back to Ooh. Which is the name of the world now. It's not called Earth anymore. It's called Ooh. 3 capital O's.
Ooh.
uh, and yeah, that's how that goes. And I do think it's a really great example of how everything is just an absurd series of events. If that bomb doesn't happen, the Lich never exists. You get a completely different world. In a more minor example of it depending entirely on one person's random decisions, so Simon Petrikov is the guy who becomes the Ice King. 1,000 years in the past, he was an antiquarian. He was a researcher of ancient shit. And he finds the ice crown, and he puts it on as a joke, and goes temporarily insane. His fiance vanishes. He gets real upset about it. Then the bomb goes off, and the world is now to shit. Many people have mutated into horrific magic toxin monsters, and he's having a
Mm.
bad time. And it's in this apocalyptic wasteland that he finds Marceline, who is still a kid at this point in time, was 1,000 years ago, and they kind of go through the wasteland together, and he's slowly losing himself to the crown. The crown is cursed, and it transforms whoever wears it for long enough into the kind of person that the Ice King is.
Ah.
Uh, like both physically and mentally.
A kidnapper. All I know about him so far, so that's what I'm going with. Turns him into a kidnapper.
It's not far off.
uh, and so it's this very sad story about him like slowly losing himself to the crown, losing more and more of his memory, becoming more and more of the Ice King, who can't even the Ice King himself can't hold memories for very long. Like once he's fully transformed into the Ice King, he forgets things very frequently, and it's been pointed out a lot that Simon's dependence on the crown at this point, at that point in the flashbacks and in that story, is can be very easily read as a parallel to addiction, and
Mm.
it, specifically Marceline's relationship with the Ice King is like witnessing a family member or a close friend lose themselves to it over and over and over again.
Mm.
Uh, But the thing is, though, we find out in this wish-altered reality that if Simon had made one choice different, which is to wear the crown at one different point in time and stop the bomb from going off by freezing it in midair, we get a completely different reality based on one guy's random decision. Because he put the crown on first as a joke, as a gaffe, and it ruined his life. And if you just put it on at one different point in time, completely new world. Everything is different.
It sounds kind of similar to like the butterfly effect.
Oh, it's very much a case of the butterfly
It's
effect.
Yeah. It's just you change one little thing and then this whole cascade of different things happens.
That's actually a lot of what Adventure Time's central plot points end up being, is a cascade of one specific, in this case it would be one specific episode's events cascading into a large central plot point, or being somehow interwoven with the story as a whole.
I think everything being entirely dependent on just like a random simple decision made entirely by chance is a very absurdist thing. Um, and it is very interesting to think about how exactly the writers kind of harnessed several parts of this when they were doing the show. Because like I said earlier, when they were writing new episodes, they'd go back and look at old episodes and see things that they hadn't expanded on and that they wanted to do new stuff with because they had the option to, and that's how they make this kind of like weird, convoluted daisy chain of episodes going all the way back to early season one stuff. Um, I believe it is in season 5 is when we first see the deity that is shown again at the end of the series. A creature by the name of Golb, who is a god of chaos and destruction.
Oh, my favorite kind.
The Lich actually actively worships Golb, but this isn't mentioned until like I think season 6 sometime. And we don't know that that figure that we see in season 5 is Golb. We think it's just another random crazy thing the show is throwing at us because it does that a lot. That entire episode is ridiculous because, okay, in the world of Adventure Time, there are knife storms where knives rain from the sky because of course there are.
That sounds very deadly.
They are. So you stay inside during that. But of course, Finn wants to go outside and do adventuring, and he's kind of miffed about the whole thing. So he and Jacob made a pillow fort inside, and Finn goes into the pillow fort and accidentallys himself into an entire pillow world, where everyone is made of pillows, and he can't find his way back.
All right.
He lives an entire life here. He's still 13 at this point in the show, I think. Maybe he's 14. I don't know. He's a young teenager, and he lives his entire lifespan within Pillow World. He gets a wife. He has kids somehow.
Upon becoming of age, is stuck his there. I made it okay.
Because that was the only reason it got cut.
Yeah.
Somehow has pillow children with his pillow wife, and then has pillow grandchildren as he becomes really fucking old, and then dies of old age within Pillow World. And as he's hurtling through the abyss, he flies past this giant red baby with like a trapezium for a head, and that's gold.
Oh.
And I don't think we find out it's gold until like the last season of the show.
I
But that's
see.
when we first see him, and he gets chained into stuff way later on. Everything with the Lich is a case study of how to chain things in later on. 'Cause he shows up in season 2, and then not again until like season 4, and sometimes in season 3. And he becomes like a major recurring villain. They technically kill him at the end of season 5. But then a new version of the Lich emerges, of course, from it's called Farm World, the world with the alternate Finn and all that shit happening.
Farm
Uh,
world.
yeah. Of course, a new Lich emerges from that bomb and conspires to open the multiverse again, as the Lich from our world did. And so he comes back in another form. Specifically, the everything that happens there with the Lich is a really good example of some like the again like the absurdist idea of everything in the world is inherently meaningless, and therefore there is nothing preventing you from doing anything at any point in time.
Yeah.
And I think the Lich is a really decent example. The Lich as a character, not the Lich as like a story mechanism, uh, is a good example of both of this, because like the Lich as he's being written into the story is a good example of like a random sequence of events commanding things. But then the Lich as a character is a really good example of the opposite of that. Without the ability to cause mass death, he basically shuts down. Like he goes into sleep mode like a robot.
Just falls over.
Because in the end of season 3, or in the end of season 4 rather, Prismo and Jake become pretty good friends. And the thing, but the
Question.
Lich, yes,
Who is Prismo?
he's the guy
The
in
time
charge
guy.
of the time room. He's the guy who grants
Right.
wishes.
I forgot his name. This is a lot. Keep going.
I know. Don't worry about it. Hopefully next time it'll be something you know about.
Please let me something I know about.
See, Prismo and Jake became really good friends, and so Jake goes to Prismo's time room every now and again just to hang out. And in the previous episode, this is at the end of season 5. In the previous episode, Finn ran into Billy's ghost, who is a constellation, and Billy told him that his human dad is alive somewhere in the world. He's in a place called the Citadel, I think. And this kind of really wonks Finn up super bad. Because he had never really thought about finding his human parents before. Like he wants kinship with humans. Like we see that in the episodes with Susan Strong and the fish people, uh, who look very human but have gills on the sides of their head.
So close.
So close. You didn't know that for the most time because they were all wearing hats.
Something seems fishy about these humans.
And so like when Jake gets back from partying with Prisma's wish room, time room, and Finn tells him like, yeah, my dad's in a place called the Citadel. I don't know what to do about it. And he's like, all right, let's get your mind off this. Let's go party in Prisma's wish room, or we can make a wish to find your dad or something like. But they've both already made their wishes technically, and so they take along an extra cast member, Shelby the Worm. Jake plays the viola. Shelby lives in Jake's viola. They're friends. They're buddies.
Okay.
And Shelby was supposed to make the wish to help him find Finn's dad, but instead Shelby makes the wish to I forget what wish Shelby makes. It's not the wish that they wanted him to make.
You fool.
Is the point? And they find out that like they they find out that the Citadel is actually a prison in space, and that in order to get in there you have to do a cosmic crime. And
Ooh.
Prismo relays this information to them for free because they're buds. And is like, okay, buds, this is gonna suck. There's an old man outside in like the space debris outside of the time room. Go get him and bring him here, okay? I was like, yeah, great. And they go do that. They bring him in there, and it find out that the old man is Prismo, and Prismo, as they know him, is like the dream of this old guy. And
Okay.
waking the old guy up will kill Prismo, and killing a Wishmaster is a cosmic crime.
Oh.
And so they're reluctant to do it, but they're still willing to go through with it, because Prismo is encouraging them. Prismo wants them to do it.
Do it. Kill me. Do it.
Wake
him up.
He's pretty chill about the whole thing.
No, it's fine, dude. Just wake him up, dude. It's fine.
However,
I'll just die. It's okay.
The Lich who has been kneeling in the corner this entire time, completely purposeless, suddenly wakes up and wakes up the old man because he wants to go to the Citadel for reasons we'll find out immediately after I finish explaining this.
Ooh.
Except the old man, as he's waking up the old man, Prisma says, "Wait, I'm having second thoughts," and then he vanishes. The reason that Prisma was okay with the old guy being woken up was because as soon as he went back to sleep again, he would just come back.
Mm.
But the thing is, once the Lich wakes up, Prismo parentheses human man, he kills him.
Well, that makes that a lot harder to come back from.
Yeah, he does still come back, but it's in a much more convoluted manner. Uh, and so the Lich gets taken to the Citadel, and Finn and Jake hitch a ride on his immobilized body. But as the Lich is imprisoned in the Citadel, essentially he spreads out a corruptive influence from the like crystal he's imprisoned in, and it gets spread to like everyone else in the Citadel, except except for Finn's dad, who is there. Who they break out of the crystal because they're all imprisoned in like little crystal stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And they break him out of the crystal, and Finn's dad is extremely dismissive, like just the worst.
Yeah, spitting image of a deadbeat dad.
Yeah, literally.
I don't understand. I broke my dad out of prison. Why is he being so mean to me? He's in a prison for a reason, I think.
And so he conspires with the rest of the criminals that are there to make an escape. Uh, the Lich breaks out of the crystal that he's in and starts doing more chaos stuff. And he is also trying to organize all of the criminals to get an escape. And Finn and Jake, of course, go to fight the Lich, but the Lich is way too powerful. This is a really iconic moment for the Lich. He has a great speech here. I'm not even going to try to replicate it, but it is fantastic. You could if you want to hear it somehow, you can find it on the internet very easily. You can just type
The internet is a wonderful place.
just type into this very website, Adventure Time, The Lich, Citadel, and you'll probably find it.
Yeah, pause the video, go do that right now, and come back. Boom, we did it. We recited it. There you go.
And imagine that in my voice. Finn is currently fallen into a pile of goop, and that goop is stuff that is inside of the crystals that keeps the criminals there in a preserved state. And we see him use it on his dad earlier to like repair his leg. It grows all the meat back on his bones. Finn has fallen into this goop, and he's feebly resisting the Lich, and he smacks him with the goop almost on accident, and it causes all of the flesh and bone and muscle to start growing back on the Lich, which causes him intense, horrific pain.
Wow, yeah.
It also completely changes his morality. And so Finn is throwing more goop onto the Lich as the spell over him is broken.
Goop, 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 goop.
He gets gooped up, he gets fully reformed, and he like literally reformed. Like his mind is now completely different. He's basically been turned into a giant baby.
Oh.
Yeah. At the same time, Finn's dad is escaping with a bunch of the rest of the criminals, and Finn goes to stop him. He grabs onto like the rope that the rock that they're using to escape is connected to, and he holds onto it. Finn has a magic sword at this point in time. It's called the Grass Sword. It responds to his will and his mind, and it's technically cursed, but he doesn't mind. And the Grass Sword, reading his intent to try and keep this thing here, extends, connects into his arm, and becomes a giant grass arm attempting to keep the fucking meteor here. But he can't. And as the vines snap, Finn loses his arm. The entire thing just gone, just ripped off him.
Ow.
In subsequent episodes in season 6, his arm grows back, but is technically made of plant matter now. It still looks the same as it did before when it grows back, but it does have like a little thorn coming out of the palm.
For narrative purposes, it's a plant. For artist purposes, it's the same arm, but you just put a little spike at the end of it.
The flower gets pollinated and then grows into a gigantic branch and tree, which grows up into the sky and then disconnects from Finn's arm, and he peels the bark off, and in there is a new arm covered in sap with a little thorn coming out of the palm. And again, it is a case of a completely random series of events. Finn happened the way he contacted Billy was he happened to come across Billy's bucket list. Billy's dead, remember, because he got his skin taken by the lich.
Skin napped.
And Finn just happens to randomly come across his bucket list, completes the bucket list, and that, for some reason, allows him to talk to Billy's ghost for a moment.
Oh.
Just because. Just because. For no particular reason whatsoever. That's just how it happened out.
I mean, I'm pretty sure he wanted to honor Billy's memory.
I mean, yeah, that's why he did the bucket list, but he wouldn't know would let him talk to the ghost.
Well, yeah, obviously.
Like the point is that
happenstance and more a good deed never goes unpunished.
I finished my hero's bucket list and now I'm missing an arm.
I'd say that's a fair trade.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
That's always one of my favorite tropes.
Another part of it that kind of flows into the thing of absurdism being built out of inherent meaninglessness is everything, as I kind of mentioned earlier, everything that happens with Ice King and Simon Petrikov. They're technically the same person. So Simon finds the crown and it gets turned into the Ice King slowly over a period of time because he doesn't want to lose his mind, but man, he does anyway. The crown also keeps him the crown also keeps him alive, which is how he's around by the events of Adventure Time 1,000 years later.
He drinks poison to satiate his thirst, basically.
Yeah. And at the end, I don't think it's not at the end of season 5, but it's like close to the end. He accidentally gets blasted by a wave of anti-magic, which nullifies the crown and returns Simon to his normal self for a bit. And he uses this time because he's going to die very soon. Because now, without the crown keeping him alive, he was already like 47 before when he put the crown on and became Ice King fully.
Really old.
Now he's like 1,047.
Is it like he still ages with the crown on?
He was aging really slowly.
Really slowly.
He was in increments.
Okay, but 1,000 years is still 1,000 years, so.
Yeah, exactly. So like he's very close to death by the end of the episode. And so in order to kind of tie up loose ends before he dies, he calls Marceline to have like a final chat with her. But more importantly, because he really, really needs to know what the fuck happened with his fiance, and he wants to apologize for driving her off by going insane.
I'm sorry, I lost my mind.
And so he constructs a time portal in order to say goodbye to her. It's supposed to just be a window. And he does say goodbye to her, and he's like, I never saw you again after I put the crown on that time, and I just wanted to say, like, I'm sorry for whatever happened. I'm never gonna see you again. And she like tries to ask for more context. And he's like, there's not a lot of time, the window is closing. Just know that I love you. And then she jumps through the time window into the future.
That's where she went.
No wonder you didn't see her again.
Yeah, she jumped through the
She
window.
literally says, I know who I'm leaving you for. You! However, she did not know at the time that Simon was fucking dying
Yeah, he was
and was
dying. Oh
gonna die in the next like
no,
10 minutes. And
no.
so she gets to the end of the portal. Everyone else kind of fills her in on what's happening. And she's like, I know what I'm gonna do. Because she's also an antiquarian. She's also like a researcher of all this ancient stuff. Uh,
Uh-huh.
and so she's like, I'm going to temporarily have you become the Ice King again, and I'll find a way to fix the crown, and then I'll fix you, and everything will be fine. Uh, and so the episode ends with her going to the creature made of pure anti-magic and punching it out. Uh,
I can
restoring the
fix
magic
this.
to the
Puts on brass knuckles.
that does restore the magic to the crown, which makes Simon into the Ice King again. And she goes off to try and find some other kind of solution. From this point in time, all of the choices that Betty makes, her name is Betty Groff, all the choices that Betty makes are really detrimental to herself
Oh no.
for basically the rest of the series. Um,
Uh,
there's a character called Magic Man, who is the guy who turns Finn into a foot in an early, much earlier episode. Uh, he's kind of absolutely insane. The concept of magic in Adventure Time is inherently linked to madness. You will not find a fully sane magic user anywhere in the show.
You're hard pressed to find a fully sane anybody.
true.
I mean, I suppose that is true, but the magic users are a special breed of
Oh yeah,
wacky.
they're also very fucked up.
Magic Man turns Finn into a foot because he wanted to teach him the lesson of sometimes you just shouldn't help people because they're assholes, actually.
I agree with that.
It's not a very effective lesson.
It isn't a very effective lesson because Finn goes on to keep doing the things he was doing anyway.
Yeah, I agree with that. Sometimes it's just like,
Like
screw you, I don't wanna help you anymore.
in a world with monsters and magic, you're not gonna exactly know who's an asshole until you're done saving them.
Yeah, that's true. No, you have to sit there while they're in danger, figure it out.
It turns out that Magic Man also has a piece of cursed headwear, which is his hat. And Betty takes his hat to become magic so she can know more things about magic and hopefully fix Ice King's crown and make it not so cursed so that Simon can live. However, instead, she goes fucking bonkers.
Well, yeah, just put on a hat, go insane. That seems to be the pattern.
Magic Man becomes, instead of Magic Man, he becomes Normal Man. That's how everyone refers to him for the rest of the show.
These names,
Specifically,
man.
most people's names are titles instead of names.
I noticed.
Specifically, what ends up happening is that when Betty puts on Magic Man's hat and becomes Magic Woman, uh, she sees an image of Simon in his like partially Ice Kingified state because he became Ice King in phases.
Yeah.
So it's him where he's mostly blue with the long nose and he's got like a real shaggy white beard, but it's not quite Ice King fully yet. And he's looking at her from the depths of a dark lake and he has lobster claws.
What?
It's a dream vision. It's not supposed. It's one of the things where it's actually reasonable for it to not make any sense.
Valid.
And she sees this vision of him, and as she puts the hat on, she hears the vision say, "You forgot your floaties," which, within the context of this part of the show, is basically understood as like something of a metaphor for Betty jumped into the deep end of magic, not having a way for her to come back.
Mm.
And so it's like jumping into the deep end of a pool when you've barely learned how to swim. You forgot your floaties.
Could you imagine just being like a child jumping into the deep end, and as you're drowning, some adult just like hovers over you and is like, "You have forgotten your floaties."
An adult with lobster claws.
Yes. And then you drown.
And then you die. Yeah, for the rest of the show, Betty tries various ways to get Ice King to go back to normal, and none of them work because the crown is absolutely ridiculous. Um, the crown is kind of a really OP magic item because we also learn after this point in the show that the crown was made by an ancient wizard named Evergreen, uh, who made the crown using wish magic to stop a meteor from hitting the Earth, like about 2,000-ish years ago, maybe longer. No, never mind, not 2,000 years ago. It's way, way, way more fucking time than that because there were dinosaurs around. It's the meteor that killed the dinosaurs. He wanted to stop that meteor.
Oh man, it was just 2,000 years ago. Those dinosaurs. It's crazy.
You want to
Actually,
stop that
it's
meteor?
2023 years ago.
Yeah.
The creationist in me is awakening again.
Didn't know there was a creationist in you.
And me either until after I finished reading the Bible.
Yet another thing I haven't.
You read a comedy Bible. How did that?
It was very persuasive once they cut out all the sexism and racism and antiquated language. There's a reason I didn't read the regular Bible.
Yeah, so Wizard Evergreen makes the crown in order to grant a wish, his wish, to stop the meteor from hitting Earth, because it's made of pure evil. It's also the meteor that happens to be the foundational essence of the mushroom bomb that makes the Lich exist.
Oh.
It's another random series of events that if it happened just a little differently, the show wouldn't exist. Because, see, the Evergreen succeeds in making the crown, but his apprentice, Gunther, is the one who ends up making the wish. Because it's not Evergreen's tower is collapsing, and his magic is weakening, and so he can't get to the crown, and he has to have Gunther make the wish. The thing is, the crown doesn't grant the wish that you make out loud, it grants your deepest wish instead, whatever wish you hold deepest in your heart. And in his heart, Gunther wanted to be a famous, powerful wizard like Evergreen. Evergreen happens to look a lot like Ice King. And so after that point, the crown is forever cursed to turn whoever wears it into the Ice Wizard Evergreen, or someone very similar to him. And
for
then the comment,
someone named Evergreen, he's not that green.
no, he's very blue.
He's ever blue.
Would I?
Yeah, if he were green, he is green, so he dies.
He dies and is replaced by Ice King, who's blue. The song makes sense now.
It was about Adventure Time the whole time.
It was about Adventure Time before Adventure Time came.
So it's essentially impossible for Betty to make the crown go into not insane mode, which is a thing that she absolutely refuses to learn. Many people try telling her this, but she refuses to really acknowledge that as the truth of the moment. Until way late in the finale of the series, which is an hour long, where in an attempt to get the power to turn Simon back to normal, she uses she gets okay, so through a wacky series of events, she's ended up getting the Enchiridion from the farm world because every reality has an Enchiridion in it.
What is that again?
It's the book with all the magic secrets in it that shows you what you want to know.
Oh, okay.
And she's gotten a hold of Farm World's version through a wacky series of events that I don't want to go through right now.
Okay.
And she goes to a page and she uses the magic in her magic hat, the residual magic in Magic Man, in order to summon Gold, the entity of pure chaos and destruction that we see in an episode, the Pillar World episode of season 5 for the first time.
Uh-huh.
Uh, and he starts destroying the world because that's what he does.
Yeah.
Uh, and she can't command him or harness his power in order to turn Simon back to normal because he's an entity of pure chaos and destruction.
Yeah, I'm not
Kind
sure
of
what her
a,
plan was there.
a bit. Well, she's not really thinking.
Hence, being crazy and all.
True.
Yeah.
True.
So I don't think she knew what her plan was. Uh, they find out that the gold has a slight weakness in the form of structure, and they use like musical melodies to essentially try and prevent him from doing complete damage to the world, but it's not enough because he is a deity, like an actual, real, proper deity. Uh, and at some point in the fight that ensues, Gold eats Finn, Simon as Ice King, and Betty. He eats the
Mm.
three of them, and within his Chrome Dome, they are slowly being reverted into their base forms. It's a form of digestion. They're
Oh.
reverted back to how they were before. Um, so Simon is turned back into Simon. He gets un-Ice Kinged.
Mm.
Betty goes back to normal as well. Nothing really happens to Finn. Uh,
He's always been like this.
he's kind of Finn is
Like
not
I
a
said, Finn is
robot.
the only normal human in Adventure Time for the longest time.
Exactly. Yeah, he does have a mechanical arm at this point in time because he lost the plant arm earlier.
Oh.
Uh, but that doesn't go away. I guess it's considered a part of his like base form at this point.
It's
I
it's what he
think it's
looks like
more
on the
like
character sheet. So
I think it's more it separates the magic from the mundane, and Finn
Probably.
is entirely mundane.
Yeah, Finn has no inherent magic qualities about him other than the fact that he's like real good at punching.
it would appear you are magicless.
Uh, and so the crown is reverted to its true wishing form as well. Um, they don't know exactly what to do with that quite yet, and the others outside are using music, and it makes like a little hole in Gold that they can slide out of his tummy from. Uh, and Finn starts to go immediately, and he tries to pull the other two out with him, but Betty realizes that the crown is in pure wishing form, which means that it can be used to make a wish. And then she shoves Simon out through the slide, and he falls on the outside of the fucking thing. He's still fully normal, and he's not slowly aging. Well, he is
Okay.
slowly aging. He's aging at a normal rate, though.
He's aging
He's
like everyone else.
7-year-old Simon, not 1,040-year-old Simon.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. uh, and Betty, while within the stomach of Gold, which is slowly enclosing around her, uh, it's not a normal stomach, of course. He's a god. It's a cube. It's a big cube, and the cube is slowly crushing her.
Oh.
uh, she puts the crown on while it's in prime wishing form and tries to make a few wishes. But even the crown, using wish magic that can alter the fundamental aspects of reality, can't get Gold out of here. And at the end, she makes the
Mm.
wish for Simon to be safe, which seems to be her deepest, truest wish. Um, and then she gets merged with Gold. She gets merged with Gold, and then Gold, this entity is referred to as Gold Betty, uh, leaves the material plane and does not come back. And Simon is just normal himself again. Uh, and that's how that goes. And there's an entire thing. There's a sequel series that came out recently called Fiona and Cake, and that's a whole other shebang that we can maybe talk about down the line. But Simon's character in it, he's one of the core characters in it. Takes place like 10 years after Adventure Time, so he's like in his like late 50s right now. he's
Mhm.
he's getting up there.
It's getting up
Uh,
there.
Not in
and
danger of dying of old age, but he's not who he used to be.
no, he was capable of doing like some like physically demanding things as himself in the original show, but He hasn't been very physically active for the entire time, the past 10 years as well, so he's kind of lost a lot of that.
He's no James Carpenter.
That's a reference for you and me only.
Huh? Huh? I know nothing.
Help. A lot of the plot of Fiona and Cake, a lot of his characterization in there, and a lot of the things concerning Simon and Betty in it, make the point that like they very easily could have made different choices. If they were just slightly different people, they could have made slightly different choices and changed the entire course of both their lives. And since they're such important characters, consequently the lives of everyone else in the show.
Changing the entire world, really.
Exactly. But they didn't. They made their choices, and now they're both stuck as they are. Simon is like a fully normal guy in a crazy world that he does not understand and no longer feels like he fits in with. And Betty as an immortal deity of chaos and destruction that she has isolated into the void between places. And she seems pretty chill there.
Just
They're
hanging out.
kind of floating in the void.
Just chilling out.
It's a very huge point in the Fiona and Cake miniseries. That is like they very easily could have made different choices, and honestly, that Simon specifically probably should have made different choices because Betty, you may have noticed, makes a lot of sacrifices for Simon over and over and over again, and it's not exactly something he doesn't appreciate. It's not something he doesn't return. It's that he never does anything to like try and put the dynamic on more equal footing. Their relationship isn't the healthiest ever, but I think it's a pretty good example of like a good relationship because they clearly love each other very much, but also a deeply, deeply imperfect one. Uh, a deeply flawed one rather, because they have this dynamic that neither of them ever really seek to correct while they still can. Where Betty makes a lot of sacrifices, and they get comfortable in it. And Simon realizes that he screwed up a whole lot and not trying to correct that dynamic on his end, and that it's too late to do so now.
Yeah. Normally I would say that like because he was just like insane Ice King mode, that would make it really hard. But she also went into magic insane mode at some point and was still doing that pattern. So
even before he went magic insane mode, that's when that dynamic was initially established, when they were both normal humans.
Okay, so that's been a thing since the beginning.
Yeah, since the beginning of their relationship. And it's something that gets addressed towards the end of that. Essentially, I guess it's like a sequel series, sort of, in a way.
Yeah, I wouldn't call it a mini series. It is more.
Well, as of now, it's a mini series because it's 10, 20-minute long episodes.
10 seasons compared to one.
Isn't it the one where it's basically just like gender swapped?
Yeah, that's what Fiona and Cake starts as.
Yeah, because there are Fiona and Cake episodes in regular Adventure Time.
In the show dedicated to them, however, they do become their own like independent characters and not just like gender swapped versions of Finn and Jake.
Yeah,
also, Cake is a cat and not a dog, which is a major difference.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure I was thinking of the right thing. So I was like,
yeah, you were.
That's the one where the Finn is the woman and the dog is the cat and the
and the living rainbow is a living negative.
Yeah, I know who that is. I'm coming out of the gate stumbling. No idea what's going on.
We need to condense the moon into a nuke.
Maybe that's not.
But hear me out. Adventure Time's a really cool place to live.
We'd be dead so long before then.
We would be. I know we'd be dead because we're all humans, and Finn's the only one on screen.
Okay, now there is a civilization of humans that survived, but they're not a focus until way, way, way later in the show.
Are they having a good time?
Sorta.
Okay.
They're living
Maybe.
on a set. They're living on a set of islands, and they're not allowed to leave.
Oh.
But and also like the current person in charge does plan to digitize all of their consciousnesses under the pretense of keeping them safe from harm. So that doesn't happen. They don't want to get digitized. Like, they stop that from happening, but it is like
It is a thing.
it is a thing.
Okay. Maybe then.
That's really what most of the show is.
Wanting
There's
food?
several other examples, but they will take
Much longer.
much longer.
Yeah.
I'm
But
kind
yeah,
of out
this-
of
this-
I'm
this
out of
kind of went-
examples I immediately talk about.
Oh no.
This went from a an absurdism.
Just like a recap
competition
of Adventure
to-
Time
Yeah,
plots.
really just a description of Adventure Time.
Yeah, I was
It's because
sitting
the show
here-
is so inherently fucking crazy.
Well, yeah,
I'm glad you described it because now I have like a tiny little semblance of what the fuck
you
we're
know
talking about.
the brief synopsis of Adventure
Yeah,
Time. now.
I've been given
Yeah.
the summary.
As the one of us who read the Wikipedia page about absurdism, what are your thoughts on Adventure Time being an absurdist work of fiction? Maybe.
I would say that's pretty accurate given what you've told me and no other context. Because yeah.
It's almost like Cole described it as if he was trying to make it seem like it was an absurdist piece of fiction because
Yeah.
that's the topic of today's episode.
I was making a pitch.
Yeah, I based on what I've read, I think the only I don't know, I think the only time it really clashes with absurdism is that there are certain because like I said, the true definition of absurdism is debated across the board. Like it's nobody really knows what it means. But there are certain people that like see it as like everything's meaningless. Like your actions are meaningless as well. And so in terms of like
I guess that does directly clash with
that
how
does
Adventure
clash
Time
with that, but only if you think of absurdism in that specific definition. Because there are other definitions that are just like life is meaningless. There's no fate. Everything's random. Like it depends on what sect of absurdism you follow, essentially. Because like I said, it's debated. There's not really a concrete definition to absurdism, which is actually kind of funny considering it's all about randomness. But yeah, it's like I found it interesting going into this personally because I apparently have actually followed this philosophy this entire time and I just didn't know what it was. I've always personally been like, yeah, life is meaningless. So what? It's like I never really cared about that fact and just let.
I
happen.
think that's more of a nihilist philosophy than an absurdist philosophy.
Well, that's it takes from nihilism and existentialism, so it's similar to both in a lot of aspects.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's basically a more positive spin on nihilism. Essentially. Like it basically takes the nihilist approach of life is meaningless and then adds on to the end, but who cares?
Yeah, as someone who's gotten lost in the sauce of nihilism, I care.
Valid.
I'm sure the overarching story was already somewhat planned out at least.
I
Yeah.
don't think it was.
Maybe not. I don't know.
I don't think it was because there's like a lot of weird characterization stuff for like the first 3 seasons. like one of them is later on. It's sort of talked about how like Princess Bubblegum does not care for magic at all, because she's completely under the idea that all magic stuff is just misunderstood science stuff. Um,
Mm.
but in earlier seasons, she seems to like to be fine with magic. Like she doesn't have a problem with magic or with magic users,
Yeah.
specifically.
Yeah.
But is
So
okay, but is that like a main story beat, or is that just an a minor oversight on the
it
writer's
be,
part?
it's not a main story beat. It becomes like a core character aspect of hers for a while, though. Uh,
Mm.
which is why like I'm unsure. I don't think the entire story was planned, because especially because like the writers have said before that like they would go back to earlier episodes and look at things, and like that's kind of how it all came together. Was they would specifically go back to look at older episodes to see if there were things they could fill out. And then like after that point, the story started to more so come together.
Interesting. 'Cause, yeah, I mean, obviously, uh every time I open my mouth, there's a like a 70% chance I'm talking out my ass. Absolutely nothing I say is backed up by facts, logic, or even myself.
We're not professionals. Don't cite us in your essays.
We're not professionals. We're clowns.
Yeah.
Stop.
Alternatively, I could play a random sound on my soundboard as the cue for the end for the exit.
I could do it.
The entire Freebird guitar solo.
Thank you all so much for watching the first ever episode of Trope Troupe. I really hope you all enjoyed it because, like we said in the video multiple times, we're all clowns and we don't know what we're doing. If you guys want to be notified when we upload the next episode, please hit the subscribe button and click the bell to be notified about it. And I will also be uploading an unedited version, mostly unedited version, that's even longer if you guys want to see all of the random rants and gibberish that we got into behind the scenes. So, thank you all again for watching, and have a good day!